My beloveds, in every season of life, there rises a woman whose presence feels like sunlight breaking through morning mist. She is not merely defined by outward appearances or fleeting applause, but by a steadfast faith that anchors her soul in the storms of life. Her heart, rich with compassion, becomes a wellspring for others, pouring out encouragement, lifting burdens, and speaking life into weary spirits. Humility crowns her strength. She does not seek power to dominate, but power to serve, and in that service she becomes extraordinary. Her words are chosen carefully, woven with wisdom and truth, carrying healing where there was once hurt. Integrity shapes her steps so that her actions echo her values without compromise. And in her nurturing spirit, she cultivates environments where families, communities, and even strangers can flourish. This is no ordinary woman. This is the portrait of a godly woman, and every soul listening today is invited to grow into this kind of radiant strength. In every season of life, there rises a woman whose presence feels like sunlight breaking through morning mist. She is not merely defined by outward appearances or fleeting applause, but by a steadfast faith that anchors her soul even when winds howl and tides shift. Her confidence is not arrogance. It is the quiet knowing that she is guided, held, and protected by something greater than herself. Through storms and through silence, she leans not on circumstance but on conviction, and this makes her unshakable. In a world that measures worth by trends and treasures, she chooses instead to stand rooted in eternal principles, unmoved by the noise of passing moments. Her heart is a reservoir of compassion, deep and clear. She does not just offer a polite smile or a perfunctory word of kindness. She listens, truly listens, and from that listening springs the kind of empathy that changes lives. People find rest in her presence because she carries peace within her. She extends mercy not only to those who please her, but to those who have hurt her, to those who misunderstand her, to those who can never repay her. In her hands, forgiveness is not weakness but power. Her compassion is active, not passive. It is not a sentiment but a force that rebuilds what the world has broken. Humility is her hidden crown. She does not need a stage or a title to feel significant. Her dignity is rooted in service, not in self-promotion. When she speaks, she does not raise her voice to drown others out, but lowers it to draw them closer. When she leads, she does not demand allegiance, but inspires trust. She knows that true greatness is not found in dominating, but in elevating others. And because of that, she becomes a safe harbor where many find strength. She stands tall, yet she bows low, understanding that a heart that kneels in service stands taller than one that climbs for glory. Her words are seasoned with wisdom. She understands that language can wound or heal, destroy or create. So she treats her tongue like a sacred instrument, playing notes that uplift, affirm, and direct others toward light. Even when she must speak hard truths, she does so with gentleness, wrapping correction in compassion so that dignity remains intact. She does not engage in idle talk or sow seeds of discord. Instead, her speech is intentional, thoughtful, and full of grace. Those who encounter her words often find themselves challenged yet comforted, corrected yet encouraged. Integrity walks beside her like a lifelong companion. She does not wear a mask in public and another in private. She lives what she believes. Her promises are not empty. Her commitments are not convenient. In an age of compromise, she holds fast to her principles even when no one is watching. Her values are not a costume she puts on for an audience. They are the very skin of her character. People learn quickly that they can trust her because she is the same person in every room. Her integrity is a lighthouse, guiding others back to solid ground when the fog of deceit rolls in. And perhaps most beautifully, her nurturing spirit is the soil where others grow. She does not merely tolerate those around her, she invests in them. She builds bridges where walls once stood. She makes space for people to discover who they are without fear of judgment. She creates homes, whether in a kitchen, a classroom, an office, or a moment where weary souls can exhale. She delights in seeing others rise, and her encouragement becomes the wind beneath their wings. Her nurturing does not weaken her, but strengthens those around her, multiplying her influence beyond what she could accomplish alone. This is no ordinary woman. This is a portrait of a godly woman, not perfect, but continually striving toward grace, courage, and authenticity. Her faith is her compass, her compassion, her gift, her humility, her strength, her wisdom, her melody, her integrity, her shield, her nurturing, her legacy. And this portrait is not painted for admiration alone, but for invitation. Every soul listening today, every person who longs for deeper meaning and higher purpose, is invited to grow into this kind of radiant strength. It is not reserved for saints or legends. It is available to anyone willing to live with conviction, love without limits, serve without applause, and speak with wisdom. In a culture that prizes noise over depth, she chooses depth. In a time when compromise is celebrated, she chooses integrity. In a world where cynicism spreads like wildfire, she chooses faith. She may be your mother, your sister, your friend, your neighbor, or she may be you, waiting to emerge from the shadows of doubt and into the light of purpose. This path is not easy, but it is worth every step. For when a woman stands rooted in these truths, she does more than shape her own life. She shapes generations. Her presence becomes a testimony, her actions a ripple that moves far beyond her sight. And so, let this be a call, not just a description. Let it awaken something within you, reminding you that strength and softness can live in the same heart, that faith and action can walk hand in hand, that humility and influence can share the same space. May you rise with this vision in your spirit. May you become a woman whose very being shines with unshakable faith, deep compassion, quiet power, and timeless grace. For when you do, the world is changed, not in one grand moment, but in countless small ones, each filled with love, courage, and light. There is a certain kind of beauty that cannot be worn, purchased, or borrowed. It rises from within, glowing softly like a lamp in the window on a long, cold night. It is the beauty of a heart so tender, so alive to the needs of others that it becomes a refuge all on its own. This is the heart of a woman whose compassion runs deeper than mere sentiment. It is not a mood she wears for the day, but a steady current flowing through her life. She does not only feel pity, she feels responsibility. She does not simply witness pain. She moves toward it, unafraid to touch wounds with gentle hands and to listen when others are wary of speaking. Her compassion is not fragile. It is strong enough to stand in the dark with someone else until the dawn comes. She does not measure worth by success or status. She looks at the soul. Where others might see failure or fault, she sees possibility, a flicker of dignity waiting to be fanned into flame. Her kindness is not selective. It reaches across divides of race, class, and belief. It does not stop at the threshold of convenience, but crosses the street, the city, the world if necessary. And yet her compassion is not reckless, it is wise. She understands that helping does not always mean rescuing, that sometimes the most loving act is to hold space, to offer presence rather than answers. In her eyes, no one is invisible. She remembers the forgotten and touches the untouchable. Such a heart is not born overnight. It is shaped by experience, by the quiet lessons of suffering and the slow work of grace. She has known her own share of disappointment and loss, and instead of hardening, she has allowed those experiences to make her softer. She has cried, prayed, doubted, and risen again, and through it all her heart has expanded. When she comforts, it is not from a distance, but from the depth of her own journey. She knows how it feels to be unseen, so she looks with intention. She knows how it feels to be unheard, so she listens with patience. She knows how it feels to be broken, so she handles others' pain as carefully as if it were glass. Her compassion shows up in quiet ways that often go unnoticed. She is the one who remembers the small details, your child's name, your favorite meal, the day your loved one passed. She is the one who writes the card, makes the call, or shows up at the hospital without being asked. She is the one who gives her time when it would be easier to give her money, and her attention when it would be easier to give a polite smile. This is not because she seeks recognition, but because she knows love must be lived, not only spoken. Her life becomes a kind of sermon without words, a daily demonstration of grace in action. And yet, make no mistake, this compassion is not weakness. It takes courage to keep a tender heart in a world that often rewards hardness. It takes strength to forgive when bitterness would be easier. It takes faith to believe that kindness still matters when cruelty seems to win. She chooses to stay soft, not because life has been gentle, but because she refuses to let it make her cruel. Her compassion is a choice she renews daily, an act of defiance against despair, a quiet revolution of the heart. She does not confuse compassion with people-pleasing. She knows how to set boundaries, how to say no when necessary, how to give without depleting herself. She understands that self-care is not selfish but essential, for an empty vessel cannot pour. In this way, her compassion is sustainable, not a flare that burns bright and then fades, but a steady flame that warms those around her for years. She teaches by example that true love includes truth, that true kindness includes courage. In her home, in her workplace, in her community, her compassion becomes a kind of gravity, drawing people toward wholeness. Children flourish under her patience. Friends find courage in her listening. Strangers feel dignity in her respect. She does not simply respond to crisis, but cultivates environments where people can thrive long before crisis arrives. Her heart is not only a refuge, it is a greenhouse where hope grows. And as those she nurtures grow stronger, they too begin to offer compassion to others, creating a ripple that stretches far beyond what she can see. This is not a fairy tale, it is a calling. It is the everyday miracle of choosing to be kind when the world is not. It is the decision to believe in the value of every soul, to invest in the unseen, to believe that small acts of mercy can move mountains. It is a way of living that leaves footprints not on sand but on hearts. It is a legacy that cannot be taken away. And so, to every person listening, this is an invitation as much as it is a description. You may think compassion is a soft virtue, but it is a force capable of changing lives, families, communities, even nations. You may think you are too small to make a difference, but a single candle can light 1,000 more without losing its flame. You may think your own wounds disqualify you from helping others, but often it is precisely those wounds that make your care authentic. There is no perfect time to begin. There is only now. Begin with a small act, a kind word, a listening ear. Let your heart stretch a little wider, a little deeper. With every choice to act from compassion rather than fear, you shape a world that is gentler, braver, and more just. For the heart of a compassionate woman is not just a personal virtue, it is a public blessing. It is not just a feeling, it is a movement. And when such hearts rise, they remind us all of what is possible, that strength and tenderness can live in the same soul, that mercy is not weakness but power, and that love lived out loud is the most enduring legacy of all. There is a quiet strength that does not announce itself with noise or spectacle. It does not need the echo of applause or the glitter of titles to validate its power. It moves softly, yet it is unshakable. It bends, yet it is never broken. This is the strength born of humility, a strength so rare that it seems almost invisible in a culture obsessed with self-promotion. Yet when you encounter it, you feel steadied, as if you've stepped onto solid ground after walking on shifting sand. This strength is not loud, it is lasting. It does not roar to be noticed, it endures to be trusted. A woman clothed in this strength does not mistake humility for weakness. She knows her worth, yet she does not wield it as a weapon. She understands that greatness is not measured by how many bow before you, but by how many rise because of you. Her power is not in control, but in influence, not in dominating, but in lifting. She does not shrink to make others comfortable, but she does not inflate herself to appear important. She stands as she is, whole, rooted, and unpretentious. In her presence, others are not diminished, but enlarged. She has learned that the true mark of leadership is not how high you climb, but how low you are willing to stoop to serve. Her humility is not self-erasure, it is self-awareness. She knows who she is and who she is. She does not have to prove it because it radiates quietly from her being. She can admit mistakes without losing dignity. She can receive correction without resentment. She can extend credit to others without feeling less herself. This is a rare freedom to be both confident and gentle, bold and gracious, principled and approachable. It is the freedom of someone who has nothing to hide and nothing to prove. Life has taught her that the most enduring structures are built on deep foundations, and humility is her foundation. It keeps her grounded when success tempts her to float, and it steadies her when criticism tries to topple her. Because of humility, she can celebrate others' victories without envy and endure her own setbacks without despair. Because of humility, she can stand in the middle of applause and remember that applause is fleeting, but character endures. This is not something she learned from books alone. It has been forged in the quiet places where ego had to die and patience had to grow. Her strength in humility shows itself not in grand gestures but in the everyday choices that reveal her character. She listens more than she speaks. She asks questions rather than assuming she has all the answers. She apologizes quickly and forgives readily. She resists the urge to compete with everyone and instead seeks to collaborate. She does not manipulate, she mentors. She does not push others down to climb higher. She builds a staircase so they can climb with her. And because she does this, people trust her in ways that cannot be bought or demanded. Her influence stretches further than any title could carry it. Humility gives her a different kind of vision. While pride blinds, humility sharpens sight. She notices the overlooked. She honors the contributions of those who receive no credit. She understands that no one rises alone and that every success is a tapestry of unseen support. This awareness keeps her grateful and gratitude keeps her generous. Even when life has been unkind, she resists bitterness because she knows bitterness shrinks the soul, but humility enlarges it. She carries her experiences like water in cupped hands, not to hoard but to pour out. Yet do not mistake this for softness without backbone. Humility is not groveling. It is not silence when truth must be spoken. It is not allowing injustice to continue unchecked. Her humility gives her courage, not timidity. Because she does not need to protect an inflated ego, she can take risks. Because she does not fear being wrong, she can admit when she is. Because she is not obsessed with image, she can focus on impact. She has learned that the greatest battles are not fought with fists or fury, but with patience, integrity, and an unwavering commitment to what is right. In her home, in her workplace, in her community, her humility becomes a kind of gravity that holds things together. She does not have to demand respect. It arrives quietly, as naturally as breath. People confide in her because they sense she will not use their vulnerability against them. People follow her because they sense she is not leading for her own glory, but for a purpose beyond herself. Even when she stands at the center, she points to something greater. Her presence is a paradox. She takes up space without taking over. She shines without blinding. This strength and humility leaves a legacy far richer than wealth or fame. It plants seeds of trust, kindness, and resilience in every life it touches. Long after her name is forgotten by the crowds, the lives she has lifted will still carry her imprint. Children raised under her example will learn that dignity is not in dominance, but in service. Friends shaped by her influence will remember that humility is not a posture of defeat, but a position of power. Communities touched by her leadership will see that quiet strength can accomplish what noise never could. And so, to every listener, this is more than a portrait. It is an invitation. In a world that rewards spectacle, dare to choose substance. In a culture that prizes self-exaltation, dare to embrace humility. You may think it will make you small, but it will make you steady. You may fear it will dim your light, but it will make your light clearer. You may wonder if anyone will notice, but trust that the seeds you plant in humility grow into trees of shelter for generations you may never see. Let your strength not be in how loudly you shout, but in how deeply you stand. Let your humility be the quiet current that carries you and those you love to higher ground. There is a power that does not come from physical strength or worldly position, but from the way a person shapes her words. It is the quiet authority of a voice that knows when to speak and when to be still, when to console and when to challenge. This is the wisdom in words. The ability to use language not as a weapon, but as a balm, not as a mirror for vanity, but as a lamp for the path. In a time when conversation can so easily become noise, her words arrive like a clear bell ringing through fog. They carry weight because they are rooted in thought. in compassion, and in truth. She understands that every word released into the air has a life of its own. It can plant courage or sow doubt, lift a burden or deepen a wound. So she treats speech as sacred. Before she speaks, she pauses, listening to the rhythm of her heart and the needs of the moment. She does not rush to fill silence for its own sake. She knows that silence itself can be a form of wisdom, giving others room to breathe, to process, to find their own voice. And when she does speak, she speaks with clarity. Even her simplest words feel deliberate, like seeds placed in fertile soil. Her wisdom is not only in eloquence but in empathy. She does not use her knowledge to display superiority but to build bridges. When she offers advice, it does not feel like instruction, but like guidance offered along a shared road. She knows how to speak hard truths without stripping people of their dignity. She wraps honesty in kindness so that even correction feels like care. Her words are not meant to crush but to shape, not to shame but to strengthen. Because she listens deeply, she can speak directly to the heart of an issue rather than circling its edges. This ability did not appear overnight. It was formed in the fires of experience, trial, and reflection. She has spoken words she later regretted and learned the cost of careless language. She has been wounded by words herself and knows how deeply they can cut. Out of those lessons has come a reverence for language, a desire to handle it with respect. Her wisdom in words is as much about restraint as it is about expression. She has learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can say is nothing at all, and the most powerful argument you can make is lived out in your actions. Her speech does not only address individuals, it shapes atmospheres. In her home, her words set the tone, gentle yet firm, encouraging yet honest. In her community, her words create possibilities, inviting collaboration, calling forth hidden talents, diffusing tensions before they escalate. Even in conflict, she speaks in ways that invite resolution rather than escalation. She has learned to ask questions that open hearts instead of statements that close them. Her words are a tool for building, never for tearing down. Yet her wisdom in words is not bland or timid. It does not shy away from truth. It does not flatter to gain favor. It knows that real healing sometimes requires discomfort. She can say, "This is wrong," without malice, and "this can be better," without despair. People listen because they sense her motives are clean. She does not speak to win arguments, but to illuminate paths. She does not manipulate with her words. She liberates. Her speech is seasoned with grace, but grounded in conviction. Her vocabulary is not limited to sentences alone. She also knows the language of presence, how to hold a hand, how to tilt her head and truly listen, how to communicate hope without uttering a syllable. This, too, is wisdom in words, knowing that communication is larger than speech, that every gesture tells a story, that tone and timing can say as much as content. She embodies the truth that words and actions must harmonize. When she speaks of forgiveness, she lives forgiveness. When she speaks of patience, she practices patience. When she calls for integrity, she models it. This kind of wisdom leaves a trail. Children raised under her influence learn that language can be a home or a weapon, and choose the former. Friends who seek her counsel leave not only with answers but with courage. Strangers who hear her speak may not remember every line, but they remember how they felt, respected, uplifted, invited to become better. She teaches by example that every person has the power to bless or curse with their words, and that blessing is always the better choice. And so her words ripple outward long after the conversation ends. They echo in decisions made, in wounds healed, in relationships restored. They create a culture of respect, honesty, and hope in the spaces she inhabits. She does not underestimate this power. She knows that civilizations rise and fall on words, that families thrive or crumble on words, that hearts are knit together or torn apart by words. This awareness gives her a steady hand on the tiller of her tongue. To every listener, this is not just a portrait but an invitation. You too have this power. You may not hold a microphone or stand on a stage, but your words are shaping someone's world every day. The text you send, the tone you use, the stories you tell, the way you respond when you are angry, all of it matters. Begin to pause before you speak, Begin to ask if your words will heal or harm. Begin to practice the discipline of silence when you have nothing kind or constructive to say. And when you do speak, let it be with courage and compassion intertwined. For wisdom in words is not about sounding smart, it is about being sincere. It is not about winning debates, but about winning trust. It is not about being heard, but about helping others hear what is true, what is good, what is possible. It is the gentle art of building people, moments, and futures with the bricks of language. And when a woman lives this way, choosing her words with care, infusing them with grace, she becomes more than a speaker. She becomes a steady voice in a noisy world, a living reminder that speech can still be sacred, and that the right words at the right time can change everything. Integrity is not a word she wears like jewelry, it is the very pulse of her life. It moves quietly beneath her choices, steady as a drum beat no one sees but everyone feels. It is what she does when no one is watching, the unseen stitching that holds the fabric of her character together. In a world quick to compromise, she chooses constancy. In a culture that celebrates convenience, she honors commitment. Her actions mirror her values, and because of that, people trust her without needing explanations. She does not just believe in honesty, she lives it. She does not simply speak of ethics, she embodies them. Her integrity is not rigid moralism, it is living truth. It is the quiet alignment between her inner life and her outer conduct. She does not promise what she cannot deliver, and when she makes a mistake, she owns it. She does not shift blame to protect her image. She does not use virtue as a performance. What you see is who she is. This authenticity gives her a rare freedom. She does not waste energy maintaining masks or constructing facades. She walks into every room carrying only herself, no pretenses, no double standards. And because she is consistent, others feel safe around her. They know where they stand, they know who she is. Such a life does not happen by accident. It is built choice by choice, moment by moment. It is forged in small decisions that no one will applaud, telling the truth when a lie would be easier, fulfilling a promise when it costs more than expected, standing alone when everyone else turns away. She understands that integrity is not tested in declarations, but in the quiet hours when no one notices. Her reputation may be public, but her character is private, and it is there that she wins the battles that shape her destiny. Her integrity in action shows itself not only in dramatic gestures, but in everyday faithfulness. She keeps confidences, she pays her debts. She arrives when she says she will arrive. She gives her best effort even when the task seems small. She treats the janitor with the same respect as the executive. She does not cut corners to gain an advantage or shade the truth to avoid discomfort. This is not because she enjoys difficulty, but because she values her soul more than her convenience. She has learned that shortcuts can lead to long detours, but the straight path, though harder, leads to peace. People sometimes mistake integrity for stubbornness, but hers is a flexible strength. It is not about being perfect, but about being principled. She can admit when she is wrong. She can change her mind when she learns new truth. She can forgive herself when she stumbles and get up again. But she will not betray her deepest values to please a crowd or to avoid a cost. She has anchored her life in something steady, and that anchor holds her through temptation, pressure, and misunderstanding. Because she has chosen integrity once, she finds it easier to choose it again. It becomes a habit, then a reflex, then a nature. Integrity gives her a different kind of power. She does not need to manipulate or control. She does not need to prove herself with loud claims or grand displays. Her life speaks for her. When she walks into a room, her credibility precedes her like a fragrance. People trust her words because they have watched her actions. Opportunities come not because she demands them, but because others know she will handle them with honor. Her influence grows not by force, but by faithfulness. She becomes, without seeking it, a standard by which others measure reliability. Her integrity in action also becomes a shelter for others. People who have been betrayed find in her a safe place. Children who grow up under her example learn that honesty is not naive but noble. Colleagues discover that ethical choices are possible even in difficult environments. Friends learn that promises can be kept. She creates a climate where trust can breathe, where truth can stand up straight, where respect can flourish. And because of her consistency, others find courage to live the same way. But make no mistake, this path is not without cost. Sometimes integrity isolates her. Sometimes it delays rewards. Sometimes it invites misunderstanding or ridicule. Yet she does not waver. She knows that integrity is a long investment. It may cost today, but it pays tomorrow, in peace of mind, in strength of character, in a legacy that cannot be stolen. She knows that power built without integrity collapses, but a life built with it endures. And so she endures, choosing the long road over the quick escape, the honest answer over the easy lie, the steady step over the hasty leap. To those who watch her, it might seem extraordinary, but she would tell you it is simply a daily decision. You do not have to be perfect to live with integrity. You only have to be honest. You do not have to be fearless. You only have to be willing. Every small act of alignment between your values and your actions strengthens the foundation. Over time, it becomes who you are. And who you are, more than what you achieve, becomes your true legacy. This is the power of integrity in action. It is quiet but unshakable, ordinary but transformative. It builds trust where there was suspicion, honor where there was cynicism, stability where there was chaos. It does not need to advertise itself because it proves itself. And when a woman lives this way, choosing truth over convenience, authenticity over performance, she becomes more than reliable. She becomes a living testament that it is still possible to be whole in a fractured world, to be trustworthy in a culture of expedience, to be light in a place of shadows. And that testament, more than any speech or title, can change the lives that intersect with hers. There is a gentleness that does not diminish strength, a tenderness that does not weaken resolve. It is the quiet, steady presence of a nurturing spirit. This spirit does not merely offer comfort in passing. It creates an atmosphere where others can breathe, grow, and become. It is not about smothering or controlling, but about making space. Space for hope, space for mistakes, space for transformation. Where the spirit dwells, people feel seen rather than scrutinized, valued rather than used. It is like sunlight to a garden, steady, patient, unassuming, yet life-giving. A woman with a nurturing spirit understands that care is more than a reaction to pain. It is an intentional practice. She does not wait for someone to break before she offers support. She builds trust in the everyday moments, through kindness, consistency, and attentiveness, so that when storms come, there is already a shelter. She looks for the overlooked, not because she wants praise, but because she sees potential. She notices the quiet child at the edge of the room, the co-worker whose shoulders sag a little lower, the neighbor whose eyes betray exhaustion. And she leans in, offering not pity but presence. Her nurturing does not diminish her, it enlarges her. She has learned that to pour into others, she must also fill her own cup. She sets boundaries not as walls, but as healthy rivers' banks that allow her compassion to flow without flooding her life. This balance keeps her giving sustainable. Her care is not frantic or desperate, but grounded and wise. She knows when to encourage and when to challenge, when to comfort and when to step back so someone else can discover their own strength. In this way, she raises people, not dependents. She nurtures growth, not dependence. This spirit is not born out of naivety. Often it is shaped through hardship. She has been neglected, and so she chooses to notice. She has been wounded, and so she chooses to heal rather than harm. She has been overlooked, and so she chooses to lift others into the light. Her nurturing is not weakness. It is resilience transformed into generosity. She knows that kindness does not erase pain, but it can ease its grip. She knows that listening does not solve every problem, but it can give someone the courage to keep going. And she knows that small acts, meals cooked, notes written, time given, can echo for years in the life of another. Her nurturing spirit is visible in the smallest gestures. She remembers the names of people who think they are forgettable. She notices when someone has changed their hair or their mood. She celebrates victories, however small, and mourns losses, however hidden. She creates spaces that feel like home, even if only for a moment. A warm greeting, A thoughtful word, a steady presence in chaos. This is not sentimental charity, it is deliberate care. She knows that dignity and tenderness can live side by side. That encouragement can be a form of strength. That love is as much an action as a feeling. Yet her nurturing is not indulgence. She does not confuse care with control. She does not rescue to feel powerful. She does not keep people weak so she can feel strong. Her goal is always empowerment, not dependency. She sees the seed in each person and tends it until it grows, but she does not try to become the plant. She steps back so others can root themselves deeply, so that their growth is their own. In doing so, she multiplies her influence far beyond what she can hold. The people she nurtures go on to nurture others, creating ripples she may never see. Her nurturing spirit also shapes environments, not just individuals. In her home, warmth lingers in the air like a familiar melody. In her workplace, she fosters collaboration instead of competition. In her friendships, she creates safety for honesty. She becomes the one people call not only when they are hurting, but also when they are celebrating, because her joy is as trustworthy as her comfort. She knows that to nurture is not to hover, but to anchor, to be a steady point of reference in a shifting world. This kind of spirit leaves a legacy. Children raised under her care learn that gentleness is not fragility, but courage in its softest form. Partners who walk beside her discover that respect and affection can coexist. Communities shaped by her example begin to mirror her values, becoming more compassionate, more patient, more resilient. Her life becomes a living testament that nurturing is not just for mothers or mentors, but for anyone who chooses to invest in another person's humanity. And so, to every listener, this is more than a description, it is an invitation. You may think nurturing requires grand resources, but it begins with noticing. You may think it demands perfect wisdom, but it begins with presence. You may think it is only for a few special souls, but it is available to anyone willing to slow down, to care, to make space. Begin with a single act of encouragement, a small gesture of hospitality, a quiet word of belief in someone's potential. These are the seeds of a nurturing spirit, and in time they grow into a canopy under which many can rest. For the nurturing spirit is not a personality trait, it is a way of living. It is choosing patience over irritation, generosity over indifference, hope over cynicism. It is refusing to let the harshness of the world harden your heart. It is believing that care can be contagious, that tenderness can be powerful, that your small acts can tilt the balance of someone else's day. And when a woman lives this way, steadily, quietly, faithfully, she becomes more than a comfort. She becomes a cultivator of life, a quiet force shaping the future by tending the present with open hands. And that, more than any title or applause, is the true measure of greatness. And so, when all these threads are woven together, the unshakable faith, the compassionate heart, the strength found in humility, the wisdom in words, the integrity lived out in action, and the nurturing spirit that gives life, you behold not a list of virtues, but a living portrait of possibility. It is a vision of a life both tender and strong, rooted and radiant, steady and soaring. Such a life does not happen by accident. It is chosen, cultivated, renewed day after day. May every listener feel the invitation wrapped in these words to become a person whose presence steadies storms, whose kindness lifts burdens, whose courage quietly reshapes the spaces around them. This is not about perfection, but about pursuit, not about applause, but about authenticity. It is the quiet revolution of living with conviction and compassion at once. If you begin even now to let these qualities take root in you, to practice them in small ways, to return to them when you falter, you too will find yourself standing in that same light. And the world around you will be warmer, braver, gentler because you chose to be so.